Hey, Cast, I'm thinking we need to shake things up here at Primetime with this new format. What do you think?
It's different, but it seems vaguely familiar. Besides, I kind of like the way things were. No offense.
Oh, come on. After all, we have to change with the times. Word around the galaxy is that this is the shape of things to come, and change is good.
I don't know, Cap. Remember when Kirk said, "People are very frightened of change"? I know it scares the crap out of me.
Kirk said that?
Yeah, at the end of Undiscovered Country. What's wrong with you?
I just don't remember Kirk ever saying crap. Okay, welcome to Primetime UGC Episode 16. We've got some great stuff for you tonight. We have special guest author XR377 in the author chair, as well as a review of his latest creation, The Computer's Children, 2 missions for the 2 factions in STO. We have Kirk Fat's Back to Basics series continuing on Foundry Essentials, and a new Fat Assets. We also have a new addition to our Primetime team, a lovely and brilliant lady. Castra joins our team, taking over Published in Primetime. I know the suspense is killing you, so we'll get started. Here's Castmodian with the news.
Yes, I'm sure the temporal phase discriminators were installed last Tuesday. No, it's not next Tuesday. Look, I will not get into an argument with you over intersecting causality right now. We're about to go on the air right this... Good evening, everybody. Temporal lockboxes, Foundry Spotlight, and more tonight on the news. And later, polywater intoxication, the new menace stalking bars across Ferengi space. All this after these messages.
It's me again, Crazy Chalaski, and have I got some deals for you. This is my wildest sale ever. You have the best, now try the rest. You don't have to spend bars of your latinum when strips will get you the finest used slaves this side of Regulus. Sure, these babies have a little mileage on them, but one man's trash is another man's treasure, am I right? Yes, I am, because Crazy Chalaski's got deals that are just plain lunacy. I've got green ones, white ones, blue ones. I can't even name all the shapes and styles I'm offering you at absolutely nutty rock-bottom prices. I'm Crazy Chalaski, and if you're in the market for a pre-owned harlot, I've got her in my inventory. Take old Jamunga here. She can cough up a bucket of Dovamite phlegm all day, but it completely clears up by nightfall. That's when you really need her anyway, am I right? Of course I am, and she's just 8 strips. Go ahead and say it. Chalaski is crazy. Look at Valmay. She has absolutely no visible scarring, and she can be coherent for almost 90 minutes at a time. That's plenty if you know what I'm talking about. And this scratch-and-dead strumpet will only set you back 6 strips. Okay, 5 strips. I must be out of my mind. Of course I am. I'm Crazy Chalaski. Now, Gallus here has only had a single owner. That's right, just one owner. Since he died of some strange alien virus, you can get this sweetie for a song. Literally. Come down and sing to me and she's all yours. Why, you ask? Because I'm Crazy Chalaski. That's right, Crazy Chalaski. And my prices are insane!
Crazy Chalaski is not responsible for any defects or medical anomalies, nor is he liable for any damages after purchase. And remember, all sales are final, no returns accepted.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And now, the news. Temporal lockboxes have gone live in Star Trek Online. These lockboxes contain Mirror Universe science ships, Lobi, DOF packs, and a chance for a temporal science ship. such as the Wells class that was featured on Star Trek Voyager. Additionally, the Lobby store got several destroyers added, as well as costumes that tie in with the temporal theme. Foundry Challenge 4. The winner for this was finally announced. It is Starbase UGC's own Kirkfat with his mission relics. Go forth and play, my friends. We had 2 spotlights announced since our last broadcast. For the Klingon side, Betrayal of the Empire Part 1 by Evil 70th. And for the Fed side, Keeping Up with the Jacens by yours truly. Go forth and play these as well. Starbase Featured Project. We had another Starbase Featured Project announced this past week. This is the 7th project since they've launched Starbases with Season 6, and this one improves the meeting areas of both Starbases. And if you're going to Destination Star Trek London, be sure to make an attempt to pick up the Hololita Duff that was offered at Star Trek Las Vegas. This Duff will be offered in the goodie bags that pass holders will be provided. Also, you can additionally, if you're unable to obtain one of those, tweet Trek Online Game with a picture of you at the convention, or you can PM Brandflakes in the forums doing the same thing with a picture of you at the convention, and a code will be provided to you. And lastly, a decidedly Foundry-free Ask Cryptic was released this past week. While a number of points were covered, there was very little to no mention of anything Foundry-related in it. And that is the news.
Welcome to Kirk's Fat Assets. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why I really love Cardassian generators. And here are 2 Cardassian generators. One's working and one is clearly not working. These assets are examples, very rare examples in the Foundry, of assets where there's one working and one not working, or there are even parts here, the effects fields, where you can add them to the one that's not working to turn it on. So you can walk up, interact with it, and turn on the effects field, or make it glow brighter and brighter and brighter. Or you can do really cool stuff like this. Here's one that is clearly working, but I'm just going to blow it up. And there we go. That's why I love Cardassian generators. Alright, see you next time.
Welcome to Episode 16's author interview. This week's author has recently released 2 missions from each faction's point of view. He calls them the Computer's Children. The Federation offering is called the Computer's Daughter, and the KDF version is the Computer's Son. Our review of these is coming up a bit later, but first, welcome please, XR377.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
When did you begin playing STO, and when did you get into the Foundry?
I actually started off about a half year after launch. I'm one of those people that actually didn't jump into the game at beta. As much as I'm a Trek fan, I've got a policy with MMOs to wait at least a half a year to a year till after they get all the bugs out, and I'm grateful I did that. Jumped in, played it for about a month for the out-of-the-box fee, and then jumped back in right when they released Foundry for everybody else, and Foundry's the main reason I'm here.
What Trek series most inspires your work, and why?
TNG, obviously. I mean, granted, it was the one I watched with my family when I was a wee lad, but I thought it had the best formula of the series, where you're in the ship, you're exploring, you have such a wide diversity of the things you can do, and the key one is that you can finish it all within this episode block. They were so great about giving you whatever scenario they faced, but they all concluded it within this small little package. And the one time they didn't, left us with a soundbite we will always remember. Best of Both Worlds, is that the one?
Yes, that's it.
And then suddenly there was a Riker's
season
like,
finale.
open fire, to be continued, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and
you're
all
like,
summer
oh.
long.
And
The
like that
first
made
time
it
they
really
did that.
powerful. That made it really powerful. And that's something, I hope influences, and I want to kind of capture that you can still get a lot done within a small package or a big package. It's just how you go at it.
Outside of Star Trek, are there any sources that you draw inspiration from?
Oh, bunches. A lot of sci-fi stuff. I mean, that just kind of goes hand in hand. There is mix and match, and a lot of people like seeing. While some people get very upset when IPs touch, there are still some things that influence. One video game in particular, which comes out more in others, but just kind of a thought that I always keep in my head, is the Homeworld series of video games from back at the early aughts. Those were some classic space opera games, and a lot of concepts in my head of this, what it actually means to be in space, to interact with a lot of different cultures, and not necessarily a Trek sense, but in a sense that leaked in a bit.
And do you have a favorite theme that you like to revisit when making a mission?
Well, I like diplomacy. I like the concept of a Federation captain being able to be both a diplomat as well as a warrior and to avoid. So I tend to be story heavy, I tend to be dialogue heavy, and leaning towards less a combative type mission and more towards a relaxed one. As far as like general themes, I keep getting called back to a lot of tech-based and holographic type themes, mainly because of one of the characters I created, which I'm very happy is a fan favorite, and just kind of writes herself.
Who do you write your missions for?
If I was being all happy and diplomatic, I'd be saying the general player base, the person who wants to sit down and feel like they're in Star Trek. But the truth is, I do it for me. Every mission I make is a mission I want to see in the game. And I don't want to do it in a self-serving way, but all of my missions have something that I wanted to see. Like my first mission, which I think is my strongest mission, Personal Reflection, is the mirror mission. It's the classic, you come across yourself, and it was an episode I was expecting. I was flying around DS9, dealing with the mirror selves, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till they throw me at me. I hope I don't just kill him right off the bat. I hope it's meaningful. And I never got to see that, so that was my first goal. I wanted to make that mission. I wanted to see that mission in the game. And likewise, with my latest concoction, the computer's children, I wanted to see a proper mission done from a different perspective, not just a retooling of text. I wanted a Federation view and a Klingon view. And although I threw a whole bunch of other stuff in the mix along with it, it was still something I wanted to see, and I wanted to show how I wanted to see it. So all the missions I put in are missions I want to see in the game, or thoughts I want to see, or different things just I felt I would love to see in a Star Trek situation.
That brings me to another question. What kind of challenges did you run into when you were telling your story from opposite sides?
The major challenges would have been editor challenges, because the first, I wrote the Federation version first. I wrote them all down first, scripted both of them, drew lines where the two would be, and when I'm making the one, I'm constantly thinking about the other, which I wanted to make both maps feel like they're two major maps where you come across and you're doing things where your counterpart in the Klingon version or the Federation version is also doing something. And I wanted both maps to feel different, but also feel the same, like you knew they were the same place. And I didn't want either of them to feel too oblong, like they were running too far in one or doing too much in the other. And I'm not sure how successful I was in the end, but I was keeping that in mind. I had to retool the mission based on some player feedback after I did some testing with the first mission, and so I got some dialogue error, and then I had to take that all, and when I copied it over to the Klingon version, I had to deal with all of the assets from the Federation mission, dice out what I didn't need, copy what text was exact, and make sure any edits I did to that text I made back with the Federation version so they always matched. And that was a huge mess. I mean, that was before we had the nice alphabetized, so everything was all out of order. All of my dialogues, like that screen to like search for whatever dialogue I want, is terrifying.
What mission have you played that you would consider your oh my god moment? You can choose one of your own.
The oh my god moment is pretty simple for me. That was Conjoined. The name starts with a D of whoever made it. But Conjoined was a mission where I had heard stuff about it. It was one of the first early ones put out there, and I'd heard stuff about it. I knew he'd done some wonderfully creative map design. But, I'd been fiddling around by then. I'd been working, so I knew how the Foundry worked. And I played that mission, and when you get to the cave, when you get to that scene, and it all just kind of peels away, I was like, I knew what he had done. I knew how he did it, and it wasn't necessarily something technologically surprising, but he just did it well. And that was one of those moments where it's like, yes, this is where you get the creative genius from random people in the audience, where they can work together or work on this idea, and suddenly this gem just pops out of nowhere. That was my oh my god moment. I've had many since, and there are many strong missions that I would say should belong in Stowe canon, like they should adopt. That's one of them, but that was the first, and really, it still makes me smirk to this day thinking about it.
That was that Denizen 6?
Denizen,
I
yep.
believe it was.
Okay, and that was with the out-of-phase culture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a hair out of phase.
Yeah.
I thought that one was really well done, on all accounts.
Well, now it's time for our wrap-up questionnaire that we're calling the Primetime 5. We'll ask 5 questions for you to answer, each with a choice. No elaboration necessary.
Your answers will let our viewers know a little bit more about you. First up, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Constitution or Galaxy class?
Galaxy class.
Kirk or Picard?
Riker. He's kind of got the best of both.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Klingon or Romulan?
Romulan.
Okay, very interesting. That's going to do it for this week's author interview. Thank you so much, XR377, for joining us. Please keep giving us content.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Be sure to join us on our next episode, when our guest author will be Logitech 007. Good evening and welcome to episode 16's mini-mission review. This time we tackled a pair of missions, one story told from 2 different perspectives. The computer's daughter on the Fed side,
And the computer's son from the Klingon side, and both by XR377. Let's begin with the story. I thought it was a very creative and ambitious attempt to tell the same story from 2 different perspectives. To be honest, I enjoyed the KDF version more than the Fed side, which is strange because I played the Fed version first. But even though the KDF version was a 2 to 3 hour mission and I knew how it would end, I didn't lose interest. The amount of detail put into the dialogues was amazing. I also really appreciated the ability to skip dialogues without losing anything substantial in regards to the plot. This is a mission where the player can really engage or can just casually run through the story. In each case, the story still makes sense.
I'm going to repeat one thing Kirkfat mentioned, if only to drive the point home. Detail. There was so very much included in both these missions that it was hard for me to imagine the work taking less than a few months. One might prefer one to the other, as preferences go, but the pure, consistent care that went into each is undeniable. Since the player is given the choice to go as in-depth or as superficial as he or she pleases, the length of these missions is really impossible to judge. We do recommend judging for yourself, however. It's worth the time. We gave story 4.5 stars, and on to map design.
XR377 spent the most time building the characters and the NPCs. There was some customization of the sets, but most of the attention to detail was focused on costumes, NPC placement, and various animations. The interior map also served the mission well. I do have to say that I wasn't a big fan of the nebula. After a combined 2 hours inside this blinding space set, my eyes were burning. If there was a way to tone this map down, I would highly recommend it. Plus, the Pulsar Nebula from canon is a less harsh mixture of blues and purples, which would be easier on the eyes.
While the space map was on the bright side, the interiors played just fine, and the maps did serve XR's purpose. They may not have been custom works of art, but I can certainly understand why. The bulk of the author's attention was most definitely paid to the story and dialogue. We gave map design 3.5 stars. Rolling along to tech.
For me, the real highlight of the tech came from how well each version complemented the other, combined with so much attention to the dialogue mechanics of giving players different levels of immersion. This was a monumental feat of planning. I also can't imagine spending so much time on dialogues that might be skipped by the players. Some folks build and build and build and build sets. This author uber-built backstory and branching dialogues.
True, there were no obvious feats of technical wizardry here. We did a lot of scanning and beaming and talking. If you like a great story and don't mind reading, the absence of hocus pocus won't be a detractor. Tech gets 3 stars. Now finally, difficulty.
I had no real issues with difficulty. Everything seemed fun and well balanced. I also really enjoyed some of the battle mechanics like scanning an ally to get them to help with the fight.
As with this category, balance is the goal, while keeping it fun and interesting. The battle sequences accomplished this without fail. Nothing about them seemed forced or thrown in simply to occupy the player. We're giving difficulty 5 stars.
Go play these 2 missions and see what you think.
Go forth, STO community. Play and create more user-generated content.
I'm Crazy Chalaski, and I'm back with Chalaski's Choice. This week's special is a fine maiden named Alamar. She was owned by a Bajoran expatriate who she only rode before temple on Sundays. High mileage? Yes, but well maintained as you can see. Today and today only, don't let this crazy deal pass you by. I'm asking 4 strips down from 5. That is an amazingly demented deal. Her accessories alone are worth that. How can I do it, you ask? I'll tell you how. I'm crazy! That's right, I'm Crazy Chalaski. So come down and pick her up. Time's running out. Better yet, the first offer of 4 strips gets free delivery. Did you hear me? Free. It's insanity, I tell you. Severe mental disorder, the likes of which cannot be measured with any known technology. Because I'm Crazy Chalaski and my prices are insane.
Hello STO community, and welcome to part 3 of Foundry Essentials Back to the Basics tutorial. In the second part, I taught you more about building your maps, putting things on your map. I do want to stress though that these are post-season 6 tutorials, so there have been some changes to the Foundry that make some of the old ways of doing things, well, they're definitely not obsolete, they still all work, but there are new alternative ways to build your project, and I want to make sure that I'm not just teaching veteran ways of doing things, and I'm showcasing some of the new features. So we're going to take a step back from the project. The project that I was working on before I just put aside, and I created a new project. I haven't done anything to it. I haven't even created a map for it. We're going to start in the Story tab. Let's say that we want to create a mission where the player does one of 2 things, and you can choose which one you want to use. He either gets a hail from an admiral who tells him or her just go to Vulcan, pick up a diplomat. Or he goes to Earth's space dock to talk with an admiral who tells the player, hey, go to Vulcan to pick up a diplomat. So you have a choice. Do you want the player to go directly to the planet after being hailed by an admiral, or do you want the player to go to a cryptic map? And by cryptic map, we're really referring to the social zones. So think of Earth Space Dock, think of Drazana Station. There are also some planets. There's Vulcan and Andoria, places where there are default NPCs that a player can talk to. And it's usually someone who tells them to go somewhere else. Personally, I tend to like going directly to the planet a lot better. I don't think players really enjoy going to Earth Space Dock just to talk to somebody who tells them, hey, you, go someplace else. I have done it in 2 of my missions because the missions involved a custom map on those stations. So I had an admiral's office on Earth Space Dock, so I used the social zone. Or in a different mission, I had a bar set on Drazana Station, so I used that cryptic map as the first map. Otherwise, if I'm telling a player to go to Vulcan to pick up a Vulcan diplomat, I don't want to make him go to Earth Space Dock first just to talk to some admiral. Maybe I might do it with Vulcan, since Vulcan is pretty close to Earth Space Dock, but I probably wouldn't do it if it was Ryza or anywhere else. But I'm going to show you both ways to do that. The first box here is Grant Mission Dialogue. This is the second thing that a player sees from your mission. The first thing they see is the description of, say, what the mission's about. Then they hit Hail, and that's when they get this box. Usually it's an admiral who says, hey, you, go here, and you can hey you, go to. The go to instructions I'm going to put as mission info because I want them to be green. I want them to be green and says, go to the Vulcan system in the Sierra sector block. Or I could use out of character text for something else. Say, well, there's no real standard way of using out of character text, but I see a lot of players use it this way. It's text that elaborates on the story. It's not something that's spoken to you, but it's more like stuff that's narrated. So, out of character text will be orange, and it might say, you stand at the window and you ponder the fate of millions of dying, helpless children on some world. That's an example of out of character text. It's something that no one's saying to you, but it's something that the player needs to read. But this guy is just going to say, hey you, go to Vulcan, pick up a diplomat. And I'm going to pick a costume. I can pick any of these cryptic made costumes. They're all pre-made. You can't modify them. Or I could create a costume myself and it would show up in this asset view list. I could pick a costume from the social zones of somebody like DJ Zuza. Let's just use him. Or I could use one of my officers. And my officers, it's going to be, they're going to be different for every player because every player has different bridge officers. So you might keep that in mind when writing dialogue. You don't want a very emotional Vulcan in your story. I'm just going to use DJ Zuzu. And DJ Zuzu is going to say, DJ Zuzu. Okay. There's DJ Zuzu, and you can select a different animation. Maybe he's angry, maybe he's happy, robotic. And he's going to say, hey you, go to Vulcan and pick up a diplomat. The first thing you may wonder next is, okay, what do I do? How do I go to the planet? If you've already made your Vulcan set, it will appear over here. But if you haven't made it, let's just make it right now. We'll do a new space map. And boom, the traffic police appear. This is the guy who tells you you're about to enter somewhere. You're about to go to a map. And we can't leave from the whole map, so we have to decide, okay, where are we leaving from? Well, if we're going to Vulcan, we want to leave from the point in sector space of the Vulcan system. That's our first door. So in this example, the bridge officer will say, sir, we're approaching Vulcan. Are you ready to enter the system? And then the mission will progress from that where DJ Zuzu will hail you. He'll say, hey, you, go to Vulcan, pick up a diplomat. And then when you get to Vulcan, your bridge officer will say, we've arrived. Are you ready to enter the map? And then once you enter the map, you need to have something for the player to do. I just want the player to arrive in the Vulcan system and approach Vulcan to beam down to the next map. That's all I'll do in this example. So the mission text will be approach the system, or approach the planet. And then what do I do? Well, I put in a new space map, so let's see what's under the map tab. Okay, there's Vulcan, partially created. Alright, so let's finish the creation. And I'll do a space map, a pre-made map. Let's search for Vulcan. Okay, there's the Vulcan system. Alright, and that's what it looks like. Okay, let's scroll out. There's my spawn point. I don't know why it's there and not here, but let's put it here. And I want to approach the planet, which means I need to use a place marker, which is, I need to place a marker rather. And a marker is a circle on a map. And right now you can't see the circle because it's just way too small. It's got a radius of 0.9. Let's change it to 30. Okay, you see it there, but it's still too small. Change it to 50. That's better, but let's go 55. And let's center it. Okay. So now the player needs to approach the planet, and once the player reaches this point, crosses that border, that will trigger that the task has been complete. But we have to put the task in the storyboard. So now we put reach a marker in the storyboard. What's the mission text? It's approach the planet. Waypoints will keep as automatic because the waypoints are the circles on the map that tell a player where to go. The marker, we have to click on it and specify what marker do you want to use. Yeah, that's the marker. It's in the Vulcan system. Place marker 1. Okay. And what happens after that? Well, I'll have the player beam down. So let's do a new map right here. There comes the traffic police now, and he says, "Ready to beam down, sir?" And I'll change this to, instead of go to next map, it'll be continue or ready to beam down. This map name I'll also call Vulcan. And I can be the text says go talk to diplomat, and then it needs a task. So let's try to have a dialogue with contact. Okay, talk to ambassador. Ambassador so and so. We can use, there are no components of that type on this map. Let's go to the map, and there's our partially created map. Finish the creation. We'll do an outdoor map. It seems to know that I'm creating an outdoor map. And we'll see if we can use Vulcan. Okay, there's Vulcan. Create. Map with that name already exists in a project. That's new. Okay, Vulcan ground. Create. And here I am on Vulcan. I don't know why the spawn point is there. Let's put it up there. And I need to have a contact. I need to have the ambassador, so I will put an NPC contact, and you can just pick one and put them where you want to put them. And then go back to the story tab and specify, hey, that's the contact I want to use. Okay, so that's really the easiest way to enter a mission, is to make the first prompt a hail, followed by specify the system that you want to start in, and then start with the first map of that system, and then just go from there. But there's also an opportunity to use a cryptic map. So let's just change the story here. Instead of DJ Zuza telling you to go to Vulcan, he's going to say, "Hey dog, bring me some tunes, bring me some beats." Then we'll use a cryptic map, and we'll specify dialogue with contact. Find DJ. We'll specify DJ Zuza. And then he'll say, "Hey dog, I need the latest tracks from Vulcan. Can you go to Vulcan and get me the beats?" This means the player will have to physically travel to Earth Space Dock, talk to the DJ. The DJ will tell, "Hey, go someplace else." And so after that, we'll put in the Vulcan space map. And there's the traffic police is where are you leaving from, and I will specify, or where are you entering, and I'll specify the Vulcan door. Another thing that you could do is, instead of specifying the Vulcan system, you could specify something else, like something at Earth Space Dock. There's a wall console, and that would take you directly to Vulcan somehow, or there's a potted plant you could interact with, and that would take you directly to Vulcan. But for this mission, what makes the most sense is to use Vulcan as the door, and the NPC will say, "We've arrived. Are you ready to beam down?" Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to show you for this time. Stay tuned for next time when we'll get into putting enemies in a map and messing with NPCs. Okay, thanks.
Good evening. I'm Kestra, and I'm here for a couple of reasons. The first is to let you know about all the great new Foundry missions that have been created in the past couple of weeks. And secondly, to offset the high testosterone level of PrimetimeUGC. I also wouldn't have believed it possible to weep and beg through tweets so effectively, but the captain is quite adept at groveling. So without further hesitation, here are all the missions from the Federation side, as there are no new Klingon offerings at this time. Here are the Foundries listed. Relics by Kirkfat, Unexpected Reflections by Chivalry Bean, The Inner Darkness by Leviathan 99, Chief Prescott's Playground by Cloud Infinity, Ghosts of the Palmery by Bazag, Foundry Art Part 1 by Techie Trekkie, Connections by Azrin, The Pillar of Worlds by Gideon Kane, Ground Control by Raidenatsky, and last but not least, The Fighter Test by Sir Boulevard. It's great to see a lot of new names in there. Please keep making Foundry missions, and we'll keep telling the community about them. Remember, if you'd like to have your mission mentioned on PrimetimeUGC, drop us a line at mailbag@primetimeugc.com, or post your mission in the Stove forums in the Promote Your Foundry Mission thread. This has been episode 16 of PrimetimeUGC. I'm Kestra, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.